Fantastic. Right. Welcome this evening to Transferable Skills with ICAEW. It's going to be a good session this evening. Lots about skills. It's going to be really, really good. So pay attention. Make sure you get lots out of it as well. I said at the beginning before, this is with Pathway CTM are hosting, but it's with ICAEW. And we are going to go through skills. So they're going to take you through a few different skills, a few different things that you can use going forward, doing applications and getting involved with jobs and even work experience. As you go through this, if you think that this session has been really useful, because it will be, we are recording it and the recording will be available on the website afterwards, so you can watch the recording afterwards. Or if you've got friends of yours who are like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, you can refer them to this resource. Once it's up and running on the website and we've edited it, it should be early next week. You can go onto the video, you can go onto the watch tab, which is the video library, and you can watch this recording or tell your mates it's there and they can watch it as well and get everything that they need out of it too. Okay, so going forward, this evening, you can communicate via the chat box. We've had a few people putting stuff in the chat box already. You can put things in the Q&A box as well. As we go through with questions, you can put things in the Q&A box. If it comes to your mind, it's not the right time to answer it, you can put it in there, and then once we get to Q&A, it can get answered. The chat box is for anything that we ask you, you can put information in, because there may be a bit of that. There will be a few polls as well, but you'll see those, okay? Who am I? So this evening, my name's Max. Well, actually, my name's Max every evening, not just this evening, but I'm the head of student success. So I look after things like when you decide to apply to opportunities, or you decide I need a CV, or I need to prep for an interview or an assessment center. I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing. That's what I'm there for. This is why I exist. Okay. That's mine and my team's role at Pathway CTM. I look after events, and you'll have seen me on lots of different things already. So with this evening, I'm actually going to hand over to ICAEW, and they're going to take you through everything. So I'm fortunate enough, I'm going to take a back seat, and you're going to get all of the information from them. You're going to get all the interactions with them. So I'm going to hand over now. We're going to go over, and they're going to share their screen. So we're going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm just going to I'll introduce the first member. So it's Harvey. Welcome, Harvey. How are you?
Thanks, Max. And yeah, very well, thank you. I believe my colleague Akin, who's going to introduce himself and kind of our role, is sharing his screen now as well. So I'll kind of hand over to Akin.
Thank you, Max, for having us. We're delighted to be here, and we're in for an exciting and rewarding skills session today. So I'll introduce our team just quickly. So my name is Akin. Harvey is joining us along with Ruby. And our role as early careers executives is to really go out and engage with students from sixth form right the way up until university, and give advice on maybe some of the steps into chartered accountancy, what the profession is like, and also the skills that you need to be able to be recognized from these employers. So today we'll be taking you through enhancing your transferable skills with ICAEW. And like Max said, if you do find something rewarding and something valuable from this session, feel free to share it with your friends, and we hope to cross paths again in the future. So what is it that we believe you should know by the end of this session? If you have doubts, if you're not too sure of something, then obviously feel free to pop them into the chat box, and myself and my colleagues are here to answer those questions as well. By the end of this session, we will be covering what transferable skills are. You may have heard of what transferable skills are, but do you really understand what they are? And how can you actually demonstrate and identify those skills in your personal life? It might be in your personal life, it might be in your work life if you've got some work experience under your belt, or it might be at school, college, and after school class. So we'll identify your skills, your transferable skills, together today. We'll be moving on to why transferable skills are so important. So we know what they are. We've had a look at, what transferable skills you might have, but why are they important? Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? And how to showcase your skills to employers. So we know the purpose, we found out why it's important, but we need to show this to potential employers in the future, whether you're thinking of doing a school leaver program or going to university and being a graduate. Eventually, you're going to have to showcase your skills to employers. And we'll discuss ways in which you could do this together today. And finally, in terms of what we want to know right now then is, do you know what transferable skills are? And if you do, can you name some of these skills? So we have a nice quick poll, I believe, that Max will be sharing with you all today.
Let me just get that poll up.
Excellent.
Oh, I don't know. Let's have a look.
In the meantime, as I said, hopefully you've heard of what transferable skills are, but do you know what they actually are? Can you, if we were to ask you now, say, this is what transferable skills are, would that be possible? Do you know what they are? And also within the poll, we've also got a question about CV and if you've had an interview before, but we'll come to those later. So maybe just pick a random yes or no for those, number 2 and number 3. But in the meantime, we're more interested in question number 1.
Almost there, almost there. Give us a few more answers. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds for everybody to answer, and then we'll share the results. Okay. So if we look at the results, so 48% have said yes, and 52% have said no about whether they know transferable skills. So 48% yes and 52% no.
Excellent. So thank you to you all for responding. For those that was just under 50% for saying yes, we'd love to hear if you could name some of those skills. So I'll give you 30 seconds to a minute just to type into the chat box a couple of words that describe some skills that you may know of. So in terms of transferable skills, when we think about it, you said that you know what it is. So can you back it up with any words or phrases to do with transferable skills? We have a few coming in. We have teamwork, interpersonal skills, leadership. Fantastic. So some rolling in. Communication, excellent. Critical thinking, brilliant. So adaptability, yes. Problem solving, brilliant. Creativity, it sounds like you've either read one of our brochures before or you're all on the ball today. Multitasking, question mark? Let's have a look. Technology, excellent. So it's great to see that you're all thinking about transferable skills, and thank you for those who have commented. Now I'll hand it over to Harvey, who's going to be talking a little bit more about what transferable skills actually are.
Thank you, Akin. And some great examples in the chat box. So thank you to everyone that has posted in there. And as some of you have kind of already put the nail on the head there, really, with what you've said, I will here's a very brief description of what transferable skills are on the screen. There are some other terms that you may have heard of transferable skills, such as kind of employability skills or soft skills. So if you've heard of those as well, these are pretty much the same thing. But essentially, they are just a set of skills and abilities which can be applied to a wide range of jobs and industries. So these tend to be really important, especially as you might not necessarily have kind of years of experience to demonstrate certain technical skills when you're applying directly for roles. But you don't need to kind of panic so much, because you do have those skills. And as some of them already put in the chat box, you have those skills. It's just finding out how you can demonstrate those kind of in a more professional way, and how those can be kind of transferred across into the role that you're actually applying for. So if we just take a look essentially at what we've identified as the 6 key transferable skills that are kind of noticed by employers, we have teamwork, professionalism, people skills, commercial awareness, decision making and problem solving, and IT skills. Now, today we're only going to really focus on 3 of these skills just due to timings. We do run other skill sessions, which we will kind of talk about at the end. So if you kind of wanting to find out more about other of the skills, then feel free to kind of sign up to those sessions later on. So these 6 key skills, really super important kind of set of skills that a lot of employers will look for when applying for jobs. And I can guarantee that you will have some form of these skills. You may just not know it yet. And hopefully throughout this presentation, we can kind of help you identify those skills and then how you can apply them on your CV, or when you get to kind of interview stages, how you can answer questions appropriately that will kind of give you those right answers.
Can I just add as well, Harvey, just to point out, if you are interested in business, finance, accounting, these are not the only skills employers look for. They are the top 6 skills. So if you have written something else in the chat box, or if you were thinking something different, it may not be irrelevant, but in terms of the employers that we work with, we've identified these are the top 6. But today, like Harvey just mentioned, we are only covering 3 of them. And we'd love to see you again at one of our internal inbound events as well. So I'll pass it back over to Harvey.
Thanks, Akin. So the first kind of skill we're going to focus on today is professionalism. So before I kind of go into professionalism and give you a little bit of a background of what it is, and then hopefully allow you to identify what kind of skills that you may have linked to this, just in the chat box again, kind of what words when you think of professionalism kind of pop to mind, and it can be literally anything. You know, there's no such thing as a silly answer, so we can have a look at what you think, and then I can kind of go through that description with you and give it a breakdown. For me, when I first kind of was leaving school, when I was thinking of professionalism, the first thing I thought of was wearing a suit and being polite. That was my kind of first thought. Lovely, we've got some flying in. I can't even read the chat box quick because it's coming in that quick, but well dressed, yeah, talking formally, skillful, having initiative. Yeah, some great examples coming in. So all in all, kind of professionalism is a very broad topic, covering lots of areas, but in short, it's kind of a form of etiquette in the workplace that's kind of linked to being respectful and courteous, and kind of being conscious of how you treat other co-workers or clients, and ensuring really that you have a positive workplace attitude and that you can kind of help improve your productivity and kind of your effectiveness in the workplace. So as I said, my initial thought when I was younger was the suit and talking polite, and that's where it kind of stems from. If you're looking at the kind of interview process and recruitment phase, it all starts from your CV. So having a nice, well-rounded kind of professional CV as possible, moving into those interview stages where you are polite and engaging and respectful, and then when you're in that workplace again, just having good manners and kind of maybe even holding a door open is for other people is a good show of professionalism. Maybe going into a meeting with external clients, that when you sit down you are offering them a glass of water to have to drink, or they just even know where the toilet is, because that just shows that you're caring and you're being kind of catering to their needs. Akin, is there anything you would like to add to professionalism?
I saw an interesting comment there in the chat box about compromising when you're not agreeing with something in the office or in the workplace. And that's quite an interesting one, because you can actually showcase your professionalism skills by difficult situations at work. So yes, you may argue, well, hopefully you don't argue, but you may disagree with some of your colleagues. But what do you do in that scenario? Do you go shouting and yelling and causing chaos in the office, or do you handle it in a different way? How do you demonstrate professionalism? That's a really good, interesting comment I saw in the chat box, which I quite liked.
Yeah, I think the key there is emotional intelligence. That's probably the key kind of part of that. The transferable skill within that is being emotionally aware that if a situation hasn't gone quite right. So for example, if myself and Akin are in the office and Akin says something or does something, maybe he keeps making lots of mistakes, which he never does, and I get annoyed by it, my first reaction shouldn't be to kind of retaliate or kind of think, oh, he's rubbish at his job. It's actually understand maybe why is he making these mistakes? Is there things, external factors away from work? Maybe he, you know, is going through a stressful period of time, or something's happened in his family, and it's about recognizing that and actually supporting within your team, and then being able to face that issue direct, because sometimes if you don't kind of have that emotional intelligence, it can make the situation a lot worse. So yeah, thank you for that, Akin. So now we have commercial awareness. So we've got a little true or false. So again, just in the chat box, if you'd like to put true or false, do you think commercial awareness is only about keeping up to date with the latest news? I'll let you have a 30 seconds or so to have a think if you even know what commercial awareness is, which is okay if you don't, but feel free to have a guess at the question. Okay, got someone coming in. A few falses, someone not too sure. What's the falses? Okay, yeah, so it is false. Part of commercial awareness is of course keeping up to date with the latest news, and knowing what's going on in the industry, and kind of specific companies, etc. But you need to be able to showcase that as well. It's not just knowing it and keeping up to date, because you could watch the news every day, but if you've not got necessarily that commercial awareness, sorry, you could have that knowledge, but if you're not showcasing it and actually kind of adapting certain applications or interview questions, then you're not really demonstrating it, and it's not really kind of helping you in that instance. I would say it, to an extent, if you don't know what commercial awareness is, you need to really think about everything. It's about having that passion and drive, but a part of it is keeping up to date with the news, but it's also knowing about maybe the specific role itself and changes that are going on with different roles, and how the specific job role may be changing. So maybe technology is now impacting certain roles, and having that awareness about the specific role rather than just the industry and sector. And also kind of maybe if you're looking at smaller companies as well, if you can easily access the hierarchy within a company and you can see how things have changed recently within the company, for example, kind of having that knowledge as well is really useful. But I'm glad to see that we had some really good answers there. I'd say trying to kind of relate it to your everyday life and having those skills. You can kind of think of when you're making informed decisions on a day-to-day basis. So if you are getting the bus to school, college, university, and you're looking at the bus timetable, but actually you've seen on the news the day before all the bus drivers in your local area have gone on strike. So actually you need to either leave earlier because there's only one bus running every hour, or on the flip side, you miss your bus, you're late, and you turn up, your lecturer, teacher is going to ask you kind of why, and they might be kind of asking you, why have you not done your kind of research beforehand and checked on things? So if you've take it really basic, you know, if you're paying attention, keeping up to date with news, etc., you would have known that potentially, not always, but you may have known that, and then you can say, you know, I knew that was happening, so I got the earlier bus, and now I'm super early. But that's not a bad thing. Akin, is there anything you'd like to add, or anything you've seen in the chat box?
And I think that was a really good example, actually, for day-to-day lives. Often people might think, oh, I don't know what commercial awareness is. I can't do it. I can't demonstrate it. But when you put it into words like that, it just goes to show we all somehow have some sort of commercial awareness. But if you wish to, you know, build on top of that, you might want to have a look at, well, how did this bus strike affect the community? What happened to the elderly people? How did they go to the doctors? Are there any other, knock-on effects going down the line? What impact would that have on the local economy? So you can do extra research to develop that commercial awareness and really understand how, one thing could affect another thing in business. And the reason why it's so important is because if you are to go to a job interview, whether that's for a school leaver role, for instance, or university jobs, graduate jobs, then you could showcase your commercial awareness to the potential employer and say, this is my commercial awareness knowledge in this industry, and it's impacting your business positively, negatively. This is some examples of what could be done, and it's essentially showing that you're interested in that industry. So really good example there, Harvey, and hopefully this really does help everyone here today understand commercial awareness a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, commercial awareness is probably one of the more difficult transferable skills. Definitely a hard one to get your head around if you're really unsure. So hopefully that's just kind of dug into it a little bit for you. But again, if you have any questions, then feel free to pop them in the chat box because we can kind of answer them for you. We'll move into the kind of the last skill before we go into some other bits, which is people skills. Now, people skills is such a variety of things, and really can a lot of words can kind of fall into this category, and we're going to show you some on the screen in a second. But again, you know what I'm going to say, you can pop it in the chat box, and just apart from the first three that Akin teased you with, if you can just anything that comes to your mind when you think of people skills, whack them in the chat box and we'll have a little look, and then we'll jump into that again. Kindness, communication, empathetic, listening, clarity. Great. Posture, teamwork, friendly, trust, understanding perspectives. God, coming in quick, can't keep up. Problem solving, resilience. Yes, fantastic. So I think you may have got every single one we've got on our screen, but we'll reveal some of ours now and kind of talk through that with you. But I think we had patience already and supportive, potentially. But we've also got some others. Well, I know reliability was on there, but we've also got things like good judgment, active listening, flexibility, and genuine interest. Now, in general, good people skills are defined as the ability to listen, communicate, and relate to others on a personal or professional level. It doesn't mean you have to be the loudest person in the room. It just means that kind of active listening is a really important one there, and a genuine interest, because I think you might think to yourself, well, I'm not the most confident, I'm a bit introverted maybe, but that doesn't mean you have good, bad people skills, sorry. You just have really good people skills from that. Actually, people that maybe are the loudest don't necessarily have the best people skills, because they're always the ones that are talking. And as you can see from the screen, it's more than just talking. It's about being honest as well and having that patience. So if you are kind of in the accountancy world, you are dealing with an external client, say, and you're looking at their financial records, you may have to have really tough conversations with clients to say, you're going to actually have to make 10 people redundant within the company because that's such a loss right now. And having that honest conversation, but being empathetic towards them as well, because it might be a small family-run kind of firm that will take that really hard. But also having that patience within those conversations, because they will probably initially refuse to do that and say there must be another way, there has to be another way. But having the patience and actively listening to that, whilst trying to use all the words here, have good manners in kind of having those good manners and having the strong communication skills to say, really, this is the only way. But yeah, the honesty there is probably the best thing. Now, if you're thinking, okay, I haven't really had to have these kind of tough conversations yet, then that's fine. Think to any time where maybe you've been in a class project, whether that be a short one in one lesson or one that's where you have to meet up after lessons and whatnot and get together to create a presentation, etc. Where have you had to have times where you've had to have patience because everyone works at different rates, where you have to maybe meet deadlines, where you're actively listening to each other and taking in information and actually genuinely listening to other people's ideas, because it matters what everyone else says in the team. You all work better together than against each other. So it's about having the proactive approach as well. So making sure that if someone says, I'll do this, and maybe they've not done it, again, as we'd said earlier, with your professionalism, maybe they're not doing it. It's maybe going out your way to see if they're all right, if they need any support, etc. But doing that in a nice way. So hopefully you can see again with all these different skills that you can take these from all walks of life, and it doesn't have to be in a professional kind of outset. And you can think of a time yourself maybe where you've had to demonstrate some of these skills on the screen. Lovely. Akin, I'll kind of hand over to yourself.
Excellent. So going back to the poll, Max, may I please ask you to show the poll?
Bring it up right now.
To...
Second part of it.
Excellent.
Hopefully you should be able to see that. Can
Perfect.
you see it, Akin?
I can see it. I can't see the results until you publish it. So we would like to hear, do you already have a CV? Simple yes or no. And also, have you ever had an interview before? Okay, so there's 2 poll questions there. So if you could just feel free to answer. And your poll should be on the screen now.
So you should see the poll. It has been. If there's lots of answers coming in, I'm going to give it another 20 seconds because we've only got a few more answers that need to come in. So we're almost there. Just get them in. It's simple. Do you have a CV already? Yes? No? Have you?
It could be the world's worst CV,
Absolutely.
or it could be the world's best CV. It's not a problem at this stage.
Okay. Give you 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds.
And if you don't have a CV, that's okay. Maybe you're not thinking of working at the moment. Maybe you're focusing on your studies and you've never had to think about having a CV at this stage.
Yeah, I'm going to share the results. Can you see the results?
Excellent. Yeah, I can. So 65% of you currently have a CV on this session, and 35% of you don't. And have you ever had an interview before? So 58% of you have said yes, and 42% have said no. And that is really interesting because they're both very similar results. And that just goes to show you've all submitted some sort of a CV to be able to get your interview, because the CV yeses are more than interview yeses. So it's great that most of you have a CV at this stage. If you don't, I would highly suggest thinking about at least putting some sort of a CV together, just so that you could get into the flow of writing a CV and also keeping it up to date. So if you currently have a CV, don't leave it to the side until you're next looking for a job. It could be part-time, it could be voluntary work. Keep updating it. The more achievements and successes you have over the coming week, months, or a year, then keep updating it as frequently as you can. And if there are any personal achievements, it doesn't have to be like a certificate or, you came first in karate or whatever it might be. It can be small achievements which you think you can list on your CV as well. And as for interviews, if you haven't had an interview yet, that's perfectly okay. But if you have, and hopefully it's in the recent time, so maybe a week ago or maybe a month ago, go back to the employer, go back to the person you had an interview with and ask for feedback. So whenever you have an interview, it's always great to get as much feedback as you can. If you've got the job, that's great. But if you haven't, then don't take it as a negative. There's always something to learn. And therefore, asking for feedback is something, priceless, or really, because you get so much valuable feedback, which will help you in your next one.
I just want to add to that really quickly.
Sure.
Because that's a really important point with feedback. When I was 18, I applied for a job at Curry's PC World. And I didn't get the job. And I was really disappointed by it because I thought I'd done really well in the interview and kind of done everything I could. And the following day when I found out, I actually rang the manager of the store that had interviewed me, just for that exact reason. Just said, thanks for the opportunity, but would love some feedback just so I know in the future kind of how to improve in interviews. And he was a little bit kind of taken back because I was only 18 years old, didn't really have much experience, etc. And he actually then offered me the job because he saw that I was proactive and was actually had a genuine interest in joining. And then I worked there for a couple of years throughout school and university. So it just shows that I'm not saying you'll necessarily get a job if asking for feedback, but it definitely does impress recruiters and employers because it shows that you have that interest. And the best thing you'll get out of it is a job, obviously, but the worst will just be that you'll get some feedback and you'll actually know next time where you've kind of gone wrong.
And a great example there. And by asking for feedback, you might actually know what to do better for when you apply again. So just because you've applied and you got rejected doesn't mean you can't apply again later. So it's great to see the results published through the poll. And thank you also for your story there, Harvey. Let's have a look at, it's not what you know, it's how you did it. Okay, so we have 3 ways in which you could demonstrate professionalism. Sorry, we have 1 way in which you could demonstrate professionalism, commercial awareness, and people skills with a great example. It's on the slides. Instead of having an awkward silence while I let you read for 30 seconds, I'll just quickly read professionalism for you. Works as a customer assistant in the local supermarket, helping customers and managing the shop's transactions. Thanks to my professionalism and trustworthiness, I was given additional responsibility to calculate the cash received in the store at the end of the day. So how did this person demonstrate professionalism? Well, it just goes to show through this example that they were a trustworthy person, employee. They've been able to help customers manage transactions. And because of this responsibility, they are likely to be trustworthy and, do the same thing again in the future. So it just goes to show this person was able to demonstrate professionalism, whether you work at a supermarket, whether you work at an accountancy firm, or whether you're volunteering for a charity. There's always some way in which you could demonstrate professionalism, and it doesn't have to just be at work either. So we've given examples at, for instance, school. You might be working in a team, and if you're trustworthy to handle a big chunk of your coursework or presentation, then that just goes to show you've got some sort of professionalism in you, okay? Having that trustworthiness. Commercial awareness is, I'll do the same again, I'll give it a quick read. So in my spare time, I like to investigate new ways I can reduce my carbon footprint. I'm excited to share my insight with your organization because from researching your core values, it's clear that sustainability is important to your business. Often when people, research or find out about a job, they go onto the website sometimes, or most of the time, they have a look at sustainability because that is quite a common rising issue or topic for most organizations. However, don't tell the recruiter what they already know. They already know what's on their website. So tell them something new. Tell them that you've actually done some research yourself to see how you could reduce your own carbon footprint. So what have you done to reduce your carbon footprint? How is that aligning with the core values of the organization? And by doing this, you're demonstrating commercial awareness. You're on topic, you're aware of this topic, and you're able to implement it into your daily life, or you have a really good understanding of it and you say to the recruiter, the person recruiting you, that if I was to work here, I'd keep an eye out on how we could improve things in this organization. So this is a commercial awareness example and how you could actually demonstrate it in your personal life. Now, the third skill that we mentioned at the beginning we'll be looking at today, 3 out of the 6, is people skills. Played for the local football team as a captain, encouraging my teammates and leading the team to win the county cup. Now, this is a really popular example when it comes to sports. When you've had a certain responsibility at a sports team, demonstrating people skills can be quite easy to demonstrate through sports. But the key here is, what was your actual role and how, what was the end result? So this person, for instance, mentioned that they play for a football team, but they're not just, there to have fun. They're there as a captain. They're there to lead a team. Okay. It doesn't have to be football. It doesn't have to be a sport. It could be a chess club or a karate club. It could be literally anything. It could be a book reading club society. Okay. What did you actually do there? Well, okay, we go play chess, but I look after the finances of this chess team or chess organization. So I look after the finances. I do a bit of the bookkeeping. And by doing this, I understand where the expenditures are. I've had to have difficult conversations with different team members to suggest there should be cuts made in this department, or we should be doing more of this, spending our money wisely, which maybe not everyone liked, but you're there to do a job. So you've had to deal with people differently. That's essentially what people skills are. And you could really showcase that in your personal life. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what each of these skills are and how you could actually demonstrate those in your personal lives. Hope that really helps. And if anyone did have any questions about that, feel free to let us know. Harvey or Ruby, is there anything you'd like to add to any of these skills?
I will, but Ruby, unless you have anything, I'll go ahead.
Also, in the meantime, I'm just going to stop screen sharing before we move on to the next one.
No, not at the minute, guys. You've answered everything.
I would just say, kind of a caveat to everything Akin has just said is that the examples there on the screen are really good and a great way, especially kind of on your CV, if you don't necessarily have any professional work kind of as any background, then you might not be able to really have much of it on your CV, and you might be thinking, especially those kind of just under the 50% of you that don't have a CV, and you might be sat there thinking, there's no point in me having a CV, I've got nothing to put on it. Then hopefully through some of our examples today, we can kind of spark something with you there that's made you think, actually, I can include something. And we used the sport example just because it was the shortest and easiest to remember. If you look at that kind of sentence would be more than okay to kind of have on your CV as an example to demonstrate your people skills. But then if you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, how does this then relate to kind of an interview stage? So it's just then building on that. So it's not, as that kind of title said, it's kind of about how you do it rather than what you know. I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah, I agree, Harvey. I was going to say, because a lot of you obviously haven't got a CV or experience. Obviously, employers do know that, you've been at uni or you've been studying, so there hasn't been time for you to get experience. So they do understand this. So, like the examples Akin and Harvey have given, they're just as valid. So, yeah, definitely have a think of what example you've had, and definitely just put them on there because it's worth a try.
Yeah, definitely. And just make sure that when you're in that interview stage, you're harnessing those transferable skills that we've talked about, and kind of how that's got you to the point that you're at, and why you'd basically be a good fit for that role.
And one important thing, sorry, Harvey, you know what the skills are now. You've got 3 of the top 6 skills. Look at your CV if you already have one. Are these skills or any of these keywords listed anywhere on your CV? If not, make sure it's there somewhere on your CV, but obviously have some evidence, some examples of where you demonstrated these. If you don't have a CV, that's okay. You could not only start working on your CV, but also start thinking about where you have maybe showcased these different skills in the past. And if you're struggling to find any examples, you've got the summer break coming up soon. So the school holidays are approaching. It's a great opportunity, yes, to have a holiday, but to also find a bit of part-time work. It could be our local supermarket. It could be your parents' company, a relative. It could be voluntary work. So there's always something you could get involved in. And hopefully these skills are something that you'll be conscious of when you're next working or thinking of adding something to your CV.
I do have a quick question which I can answer just before I go through the next steps, which is just that does this work for a personal statement? Yep, this kind of same thing as well. So if you want to, when you say personal statement, I'm assuming you mean kind of within your CV or cover letter. So it'll work for both to an extent. So we do run CV workshops, which I'll talk about in a second, but you can include that in your personal statement within your CV, or if you're writing a cover letter, UCAS. So yeah, for UCAS, so when you're applying for university, yeah, absolutely include that, because it's just demonstrating your personality as well. Interviews are to really just show who you are as a person and to show, you know, you actually know what on paper it says, and give you that kind of opportunity to talk a bit more. So personal statement, absolutely, please put those in. So we are coming to an end, and we will kind of open up for questions. I think we've only got kind of a few minutes left, but the next steps really from ourselves, as Max alluded to earlier, is we have a virtual work experience. So if you currently have no work experience and you're like, oh, I would love to get into some work experience, then please do apply through our virtual work experience, which we will be dropping some links in shortly. And the deadline is quite tight, so the 20th of May. You don't need to finish your application for the virtual work experience by the 20th of May. As long as you've started it by then that is okay. There's 2 separate weeks of when it's happening, so hopefully it'll be flexible enough for you to be able to kind of pick a week if you are successful. But this is a fantastic opportunity for you to virtually get some experience. So you're not really having to go anywhere, but again, a great opportunity to network with other people and feel what it's like to, you know, actually do a job and have a bit of work and actually beef up your CV a little bit and give you that kind of actual experience that then you can have that on your CV plus your transferable skills as well. So when you are applying for UCAS and things like that as well, it's going to really make you stand out. So like I said, we'll drop those in the chat. Also, we have something called Careers Plus, which is an online resource which is completely free for you to sign up to. And it has things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint training, all types of things like that. Lots of webinars and videos and all sorts, all about different topics and different skills and things like that. That if you want to have on your CV that you're competent on Excel maybe, then it's free for you to access all of that and sign up to our virtual skills sessions. So as I've said, we do lots of other sessions like this, that some are a bit longer and focused on different topics, CVs, mock interviews, an introduction to the ACA qualification and us as a professional membership body. So again, we will drop links in, but fantastic sessions, and hopefully we will see some of you there. And then finally, you're probably not at the stage right now to necessarily apply for a training vacancy with ourselves if you are thinking about going to university, but maybe you're thinking about taking a school leaver route, which we do have the opportunities for you there. So if you would like to take a look, and maybe if you just want to do it to help you with your CV, to see what employers are posting and kind of the types of words that they're using within the job specs, etc., then it's a great opportunity to do that. But I believe now we're going to finish kind of waffling on and open it up to questions. I can see some coming in, so I'll go ahead and answer some of these. First one, sorry, I'm trying not to read the bottom one, I think. Oh gosh, apologize. So what job sector is the work experience focusing? Yes, so Akin, do you want to chat? Have you got anything to add more to virtual work experience?
Yeah, the virtual work experience is a fantastic opportunity, especially if you're interested in business, finance, and accounting. It's 1 week of where you have a taster as to what chartered accountants do. You'll be able to meet lots of people in the profession, and you will also be paid. So that's always nice. So yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity. There are limited slots, but if you do start applying before the deadline, which is the 20th of May, then you will be considered within your application. So do make sure you've applied, because these skills are so important, and especially when it's so difficult to find work opportunities, working virtually from your own home and speaking with lots of other students on this work experience program from the comfort of your own home, it's something that you can't always find everywhere. So definitely start applying now. And Ruby is kindly sharing the links for everything that's listed here. What other questions do we have? So I've covered what it's about. Anything to help with ACA exams? Great question. Great to see that you're already thinking about our qualifications exams. So if you are successful and do get a taster of the virtual work experience, you'll have more information there. But if you want to see what ICAEW is, what our qualification is all about, etc., I would highly recommend joining the virtual sessions that we are offering. Again, they are free, and you can find out a lot more about who we are, what we do, and more about the exams. We didn't have time today to talk about us much, but that's why we wanted to just focus on these skills, as they're so important.
We do have another question, Mackin.
Go ahead, Harvey.
Which is just, is there any other work experience? I'm happy to go through that if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
So there's, with ourselves at the moment, that's what we've got going on. There is always opportunities to do work experience with other companies through training vacancies. So training vacancies is just like a jobs board, or, I mean, it's been a while since I've applied to university, but when I applied to university, it was, you could kind of filter and search and whatnot on UCAS and things like that. So similar to a jobs board where you can select whether it's part-time, full-time, location, etc. So you can kind of filter the job role to kind of work experience, and there might not be a lot of opportunities available, but there opportunities do come about. So if you are looking for things that maybe the 2 weeks that we've got don't suit you, or you'd like to go elsewhere, then please do look on the training vacancies. Also, if there's a particular industry or company that you want to go for, then 100%, firstly check they're not one of our authorized trained employers, and if they're not, then maybe just write them an email to see if you can get any experience with them through that. I think Ruby's dropped all the links in now, so there's no more questions.
2 seconds, Harvey, sorry, I think the first thing I sent in was incorrect. Bear with me a second.
Some great questions, though. Thank you all so much for your participation, whether it's the polls, chat box, or your questions. If there are any more, we're here for a few more minutes, I believe. Is that correct, Max?
That is correct. That is correct.
Excellent.
The only thing I've got is a closing poll. But yeah, lots of great questions. I think you said it yourself, Hakin, lots of great questions. And thank you also, Ruby, for putting those links in. This has been some great information. And for students that are out there and looking, this is great information for you to be able to use now and in the future as well. This sets you a good foundation going forward. And you've heard it from an organization which is just wanting to help you to get to those opportunities, and that work experience is really a great opportunity. Get in there. And also what I will say is that if you want any more support with this, because we know that the support doesn't just end today. Remember, I run a session every Wednesday, 4:30 to 5:30, where I can take questions. It's totally driven by students that come in with questions that they have. And if you want me to look over a CV, help you with a cover letter, put these skills into action, or even practice them, we can set up time for it. So you're not on your own, because it's great to see these sessions and do it and now go away and try it. But maybe you want a bit of practice, and that's what we're here for as well. And I would fully recommend, if you are eligible for it, get yourself signed up, apply for that work experience or the work experience opportunities, because what are you going to lose? You get practice in doing the application process of writing your CV, of going through it, getting feedback, like Harvey and Hakin said about getting that feedback and using it for the future. But then what happens if you get on the work experience? And you can use that as well. You'll build more skills. and think it's virtual, it's done from home, which could be comfortable, but you'll have to come out your comfort zone a little bit, get involved, meet other people that you never met before, maybe chat in the chat box, maybe talk on microphone. So it's great to use those skills and to get involved. And this is what the sessions are all about. Let's get you prepped for the future going forward, so that when you see those opportunities and you're at the right level to apply for those training vacancies, then you can go for it and you're much better prepared. So I think it's been really great with all the information that's come through. So that's fantastic. Let me put that poll up now, and let's get some answers on this one. So you should be able to see it on the screen now. How many of you feel more confident in figuring out your key transferable skills? Yes or no? Just put yes or no in the box. And following this session, would you feel more confident in an interview? Yes or no? And following this session, would you feel more confident writing a CV? Again, you may be a little bit unsure, so maybe put no if you're a bit unsure, if you've got to go away and practice it and try it out. But let us know. As I said as well, if you do want to practice it, you want more help, come to my sessions. You can even email us. There's plenty of resources on the Pathway CTM website. Okay, so we're almost there. I'm going to give you 20 seconds more, a few more answers to come in. How many of you feel more confident in figuring out your key transferable skills? And following this session, would you feel more confident in an interview? And following the session, would you feel more confident writing a CV? So what we got, let's have a look. Okay, I'll give it 15 more seconds. We're almost there with all the answers, 15 more seconds. Okay. Right, I'm going to end the poll. Let's launch those results. So as you can see, 96% feel more confident in being able to figure out their key transferable skills. Wonderful. That's really good to hear. And again, following the session, 75% would feel more confident in an interview. That's good. Remember, get those practice times in as well. And following the session, would you feel more confident writing a CV? And again, 75% have said yes. So that's fantastic results. And it shows just even a small amount of time focusing on the skills and focusing on CVs and interview techniques and tips has helped you go forward. Keep the momentum going and use it. Get applications into different things, even if it's a summer job. And if you want help with it, like I said, come to my sessions and get involved with us. So I think Akin, Harvey and Ruby as well for tonight, I think we can say that that's a successful result. I'd say job done. I think we've achieved what we needed to. We're repeating this on the 19th of May. So like we said, the recording goes up on the website, but we're going to do it again on the 19th of May. So if you've got friends of yours that you think, or you want to come back and refresh a bit more and just get more into it, or you've got friends who need to see this, tell them about it, and let's get them on the 19th of May as well, okay? Because as you've seen yourselves, it's really beneficial. So it's been brilliant. And good work on the timekeeping as well, much better than mine. So yeah, thank you, Harvey. Thank you, Akin, for coming along, presenting, putting the slides together. Ruby, helping out, getting those links in. Thank you for sharing those as well. It's really important. Students, take the links out of the chat box. Make sure you've got them, use them, go and do research and get involved with it. So yeah, thank you to all of you for coming along, and thank you for students for getting involved as well.
Thanks, Max. And to those people that potentially don't feel like that the sessions give them everything they want, the small percentage of people that maybe still kind of struggling a bit, then as Max said, we are back on the 19th. It'll be myself with my colleague Zoe. So even though it'll be pretty much the same content, we may just say little things that might actually click and make you kind of go, okay, I get it now. And we're all on LinkedIn as well. So if you are on LinkedIn and would like to drop us a message there, then more than happy to speak to you there. But hopefully we'll see some of you at our other skill sessions as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good evening.